Hi, welcome to the small shed. We're working from Bromsgrove this week. See you in a minute. Now, as you can probably see, I'm in the middle of painting in the garage. Got paint all over me. I'm in one of those perfect storms that I had with the bus at the moment, in that I'm spending so much time on doing stuff in the garage that needs doing before the plasterer comes, and on other things because we're beginning to get out of lockdown, so we're going out to see people and we're doing other things, that I've just not been in the shed for probably 2 or 3 weeks doing anything meaningful. And a couple of things that I've got on the back burner in there, I'm waiting for parts, so I can't even get those videos finished. So I've got no shed video content this week, I'm afraid. So I thought I'd skip with the Pallet Land Rover from the Men in Sheds shed that I've been doing quite a bit with, because again we're getting ready to open up the shed in 17th of May, so we've been doing some preparatory works there to get the place sorted out with some more benches and all that sort of thing, make it COVID safe again. So I've been doing a bit over there as well, just to get some progress on that, because we want to get it out the way, and hopefully in the half term in beginning of June we'll get it over to the school. So apologies for the fact we're not making anything in the shed today, but it's this or nothing, I'm afraid. So let's go over, have a look, see what we've been up to, and bring you up to date with what's been going on. It's been probably nearly 9 months or so, I would guess, since I did anything on the Land Rover, and we can see what we've been up to. So going back to last October, I think it was, when we did an update, I'd actually started to go back to Men in Sheds after our holiday, and they'd started to release lockdown a bit, and I went back and we were doing a little bit of work getting things finished, sawing up timber to put the rear back on the car. There's sort of benches sitting in the back, but there's no end piece, which I've just put on. And finishing off generally things like the seating hadn't been started, so the internal seating for where the driver would sit. So I got a pallet sorted out for that. Front end has stayed pretty much the same as it's been all along. That was the first thing I completed, and it wasn't too bad. And I think I'd chopped the windscreen down a bit, although I'm still to this day a little bit uncertain about whether it's too tall or not. But again, it was just tidying up loose ends. All of the main components were pretty much made at that stage, and that left me in a position where I didn't think it was going to take too long to do it. Well, I probably only had a couple of weeks working on it, but there was quite a lot of progress made, and it looked like it was all set to be fine to get the thing finished, and hopefully it would be finished before Christmas. Of course, events overtook us, and we got the second wave with COVID, and that caused fairly massive problems, and we had to shut down again, so that after only a couple of weeks work, I got to a stage again where it was just about ready to go, and the brakes were put on it. And it hasn't been until the last week or two that we've been able to get anywhere near it. Right, second week in on the Land Rover since we've been back. We're getting pretty much there, I think. The front was always almost right anyway. I've just lowered the screen a week or so ago, That's been done, but it's on round the back that all the work's been carried out now. I'll just run round. I've managed to get all the back side pieces lined, levelled. I've got all the seating into it now. They're attached to the sides, so we've got two side pieces that literally lift off at the moment, but will be bolted down. Back panel's gone in, so a little bit of tidying up and putting cappings on and things like that, and the back part is now ready to start and sand and tidy up and get child-proof. And then in the middle I've started to get the work done on the seating. That's now all coming in, ready to start and just screw that up next week. So hopefully next week should see me pretty much there with the structure itself, and we can worry about just sorting out the few tiny bits like steering wheels, and I've got a gear lever to sort and things like that. But we seem to be moving on a bit with it now. It's useful to have the space to be able to just leave it up and not have to worry about stacking it all up every time I leave. So we fast forward, as I said, and that was very optimistic, but back in October, because we didn't have another week to do anything with it, but we managed to get a couple of weeks of work in while, as I say, the shed is being recommissioned, ready to open in May. I was able to get on and do some work. Fortunately the weather was brilliant, and we managed to get the little workbench set up outside that's proving well worth its effort. And starting on, just all the components pretty much were made, but none of it had really been put together what I would call properly. It had been thrown together, stacked together, propped up against one another, but not actually physically attached to one another, and things with the pallets that this thing sits on, nothing had been attached to anything. So I started off just with the little katsu roundovers on all of the pallets and then sanding them smooth. And the aim is to make sure that there's nothing on this when we've got it painted that's going to be a problem for children getting splinters or anything. Originally I was going to leave it in bare pallet wood and maybe just treat it with a clear preservative, but I think getting a decent coat of paint on it will help to bind the fibres and help stop with this problem of getting any splinters or anything like that. Belt sander's a bit of a beast, but again it's been ideal. That, as you saw a couple of weeks ago, lasted about 5 minutes before it melted itself down, but we got a new bearing for it and it's been going fine ever since. I've just been bits of scraping off glue and things like that had come out, the Gorilla Glue, that the foam stuff comes out all over the surface, so sorting some of that out, just generally tidying it up panel by panel so that the thing was at least ready for a coat of paint, and hopefully we won't have to do any more tidying up on them. It may well be there'll be a little bit of sanding here and there, or things that we find when it's put together that we think, oh yeah, that could do with a bit more work on it, but I think we're almost there. Biggest thing we hadn't tackled were the wheels. They've been out, left on an allotment for many years, and we're deeply ingrained with rust. So I got a metal fibre wheel on the angle grinder. Nasty things, little spines can fly everywhere, so it was definitely a case for mask and eye protection with that one, with the old polycarbonate face mask on. But we got those cleared up. It didn't take too long. As you can see, the tyres themselves are pretty poorly anyway, but we wanted to at least get them looking half decent. And then I've just started to go over what I've been doing time and time again before when I put it together, but this time making sure it was in exactly the right place to the millimetre, or the nearest 10 anyway, and screw the things together. I'd got the runners on the front pallet that needed attaching. I've screwed those on because that can be moved as one unit without any great problem. That can have the front bumper screwed to it as well, so that we've got a minimal amount of pieces that go up to the school when we need to go and assemble it. Once the front runners were on, I got a chance to put the actual cab front part onto it, mark exactly where it was going to sit, drill some holes through the cross bracing on it, and I'm just putting in some threaded inserts then, so that means I can put a 6mm stainless steel bolt to bolt the top down to the actual pallet. The pallets are plastic, the base ones, so they're going to sit on the ground, and hopefully there'll be no or a lot less problems with rot on this, because it'll be sitting up off the ground with reasonable ventilation. And then cleaned off the second pallet, and again, although it's a little bit poorly in one or two places, it will be fine. Just drilling through from one pallet to the other, so that those are again bolted together with stainless steel bolts, washers and nuts, so that it'll just come apart or reassemble as like a jigsaw of parts, and we won't be messing around having to worry about measurements on it anywhere, because all the holes will be there. You can see from the front wheel it's already had a coat of anti-rust primer, that rust converter that turns the rust, any residual rust, into a harmless inert substance, and it also gives you like a grey primer. One of my colleagues turned down some spindles so that would enable us to actually attach the wheels to the car. They'll be sitting at ground level, but I do want to actually attach them in some way, shape or form. And then there was just a little bit of work needed to house the bottom of a piece that I'm using for a gear lever. I found a very long flexible shaft down at the scrap store the other week that means that if they actually fall over anywhere near it, it'll just bend over. But I've just drilled the front of that floor section in the front for that to go through there. Back in the shed, because the next week it was not quite such a nice day. Carrying on, by this time all the back is now, the cross pieces are all bolted and screwed onto that pallet. The pallets screw together, and again I'm just now starting to get the fixings sorted for the rear sides. That again will just be bolted on or screwed on, but they'll all have there's little packers here, there and everywhere. And the front seating area is all done, all again ready, sanded, just ready for paint. Painting should be much easier because it's in component parts that we can just do them one at a time. You can see the other side that's going on there now. It's been pretty well smoothed off all around, all the corners rounded off. I've just taken a further bit off that bit by the seat subsequent to this, just to make it a bit less likely that anyone will catch the corner on the way into the cab. I've just put a half round on that, but again just lining everything up, lining it through, marking it, drilling it, putting threaded inserts in ready for the bolts, so that it'll just all go together. Back wheels ready to go into position, and again You can see that one of my colleagues has painted the wheels silver, and we've also filled in all the front part of the front bulkhead so that no one can get the fingers in amongst all that lot, because it was a bit rough in there. So that's pretty much where we are to date, ready more or less now for paint. So there we are, it's just about ready to paint now. I won't bore you all with a video of us painting it. I give enough videos of you watching paint dry without having to do the Land Rover as well. I'll put some in on the front of a video when we actually get the whole thing put together and take it out to the school, but that will be the last one then, when we've got all the finishing bits done. Hope it was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week. I'll endeavour to try and find something to do in the shed, hopefully with a bit more time, and we'll see you then. Bye.